Hello and welcome to Stories Behind the Canvas. This is the story behind Spiral of Serenity. And just like every other painting, this one began with that subtle whisper from the inside. It was a gentle moment of stillness that invited me to just look a little bit further inward and really begin to sense what was there. This one began with but just one single curve, and a spiral began to form quietly in my mind. As I began to explore the curvature of this Nautilus shell, I really loved the steady ability of it to just be present in the moment. Spiral of Serenity is a 10 by 14 Delft Blue watercolor with white acrylic textures and subtle copper accents. At the time of painting this piece, I was feeling very inward. You know, the kind of inward where you just want to snuggle under your warmest, softest blanket, and you want to turn off everything that has to do with the external world. All the noise, all the chatter, even just all the things in your memory of the external world. I felt very contemplative. And at the time, life itself was inviting me into a quiet retreat within my own heart. There was a lot on my mind, and as I began painting, that began to slowly drift away. I found a stillness in the rhythm of the brush, a calm in watching as the spiral unfolded, how the perfectionism began to melt away, one curve at a time. This painting for me was an opportunity to explore something I had never explored before, combining watercolor with oil and acrylic. I wanted to take the three items of paint that I love and combine them into one beautiful, amazing masterpiece. So each turn of the Nautilus shell became a reflection of my thoughts, some looping and looking into the past, others stretching toward new beginnings. It reminded me that growth does not have to be rushed, and it actually gently unfolds layer by layer. When we create from a place of surrender rather than striving, beautiful things come forth without difficulty. Yes, sometimes still those thoughts come into your mind, but you let them just pass. Every time the brush strokes, you just let that next thought go, and the next one go, and the next one go. And pretty soon, you have a completed piece. The meaning within the spiral itself has always fascinated me. Its perfect rhythm, its quiet order, its symmetry, its ability to symbolize expansion and return at the same time. There is really truly a divine design woven into the shell and its capacity for beauty, one that mirrors a pattern of our own becoming. Every chamber in the Nautilus shell is formed only when the previous one is complete. One can't be created before the other. It has to be in a sequence. And I thought about this as I painted, how each season of our life prepares us for the next. And we build upon the one previous, all the things that we learned, all the things that we went through, the struggles, the sorrows, the happiness, the joy. Nothing is ever wasted. Every curve, every detour becomes a part of a greater sacred pattern in our lives. It teaches us, it nourishes us, it helps us to grow. Just like the other pieces in this collection, it was also painted with Delft Blue. But I did something a little bit different in this piece that I didn't do in the other pieces. I created a lot of texture. You can see from the image on the screen how the white just pops out above the watercolor, and then how the copper accents just really lay within these two layers. The shimmering copper accent and the soft white texture allows you to truly feel this piece. I wanted this piece to be one that wasn't just, looked at, but was art that you could tangibly have an experience with. It's a piece that you run your fingers across and you can feel the image come to life under your hands. The tones for me in this piece captured the balance between serenity and movement, between quiet depths of the sea and warm light touches against its surface as the sun shines upon it. Before I began, I do what I always do with every single piece. I chose an essential oil to set the mood, said a quiet prayer, and I find that this is really important for me because it allows me to come back into a balanced space no matter what's going on in my world. I let myself just breathe into what I wanted to create, and before I laid down the brush, I just really became present so that this piece would become not just a piece to look upon, but like I said, a piece to really experience. I wanted it to stand out apart from all of the other ones that I created for this collection, simply because I thought we could look at this piece and see its simplicity, but we can also look at this piece and see its complexity. It depends on how we actually would use the colors and use the brush and use the texture that could be created by utilizing different types of paint. It wasn't about control in this piece, it was about trusting the process. This was the first time I was going to be combining all three types of paint that I love to use. There's a verse that echoed in my heart as this piece came to life. It's one you probably will also hear inside of the meditation for this piece, and it was this: "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." There are key words here. May the God of hope fill you, not just give you a little bit, not just give you a tiny fraction, but actually fill you with joy and peace. I think it's important to remember that sometimes in our struggles, we forget that we can also still, in those moments, be filled with joy and peace while we're experiencing difficulties in our life. And then in the second part, it says that you may overflow with hope. Overflow. Think of it this way. What if we pour water or some other beverage into a cup and we just pour like a tiny bit? That's not really gonna do very much, right? I know my husband sometimes teases me and he'll pour a tiny little bit of a drink if I ask him for a drink, and then he just laughs and chuckles. But when we actually pour fully into that cup that we are pouring the water into, and we let it overflow, there's something in that imagery that just really brings to mind that we're really meant to overflow with hope, even in those moments that are the most difficult in our lives. We don't want to have just a little bit of hope. We want to have a hope in its fullness, overflowing. Because it's that kind of hope that will help us get through those most difficult times in our lives. And that's what message became out of this Spiral of Serenity painting. Because serenity isn't the absence of movement, it's the presence of peace within it. If you look at this piece, you can see that there's the raised white parts, but yet there's those parts that are the Delft Blue color just laying on the surface of the paper. So there's the movement there, but there's also the presence of the piece just laying there in between the movement parts of the painting. Even in seasons of uncertainty or change, we can trust the same hand that designed this spiral on this specific Nautilus shell is guiding our lives with purpose and care just as much as in this seashell. It's my hope that as you look upon Spiral of Serenity, that it reminds you to take a deeper breath, quiet the noise around you, and honor the rhythm of your own growth, to trust the process that's unfolding, and to try really hard, because I know it is hard, to not perfect it, but to simply be present in it. To be present in the movement and present in the peace within it. Thank you so much for joining me in this chapter of stories from the canvas. If this particular piece speaks to your heart, you can find the original as well as fine art prints available on my website. And I'd love for you to subscribe for more stories, more art, and more moments of calm.